Hi, everybody. Dave Clark from InspectCheck-net. Today, we're going to talk about something that we see in the field sometimes, or we hear other people talk about. And there definitely seems to be there's some definite different opinions on that. But I think most of us will agree that if we see air conditioning ducts, or they could be heat ducts that are integrated, but if the air conditioning is on and we see heat ducts, or we see air conditioning ducts sweating, that's a problem. I've heard some inspectors say, well, if it's just a little condensation on them, no, that's not it's condensation for sure, but it's not the condensation that we want. The condensation that comes out from the evaporator tray is a whole different animal, and that's supposed to be there, but not sweating. So when I do an inspection and the air conditioning on, it's a hot day, I'm happy that that's the case. But I think that I've heard inspectors say, well, a little bit of condensation or sweating on the ductwork is okay. It's not a big deal. I totally disagree with that. I think that there's an issue, okay, and that's not normal. Most HVAC contractors will tell you that's not normal. But anyway, so a couple of the reasons why that happens, and I'll show you. I'll show you a nice a couple pictures, and we'll go over what to look for also. But many times these air conditioning systems are just not installed properly, or they're oversized, right? You hear the contractor saying, well, we always install 3-ton air conditioning systems in all houses. Well, why would they do that? Um, the house is not going to get properly dehumidified, and you can also get condensation issues with that too. So, if the temperature is set, if somebody's setting the temperature at 60 degrees and the air conditioning is running constantly, that's really not the goal here, right? The temperature should be in the 70s, really mid 70s. It's all about dehumidification. So an overly sized system is not going to properly dehumidify the house, right? So if you look at a 78-degree house with 48% humidity, that's going to feel great, right? But if you look at a house that's 60, my other example, and there's 90% humidity, it's going to feel cold for sure, but it's going to feel clammy because the humidity, it's not properly reduced. An oversized unit will shut down long before the house has been properly dehumidified. So an air conditioning system that's just too large will run in shorter cycles. It can run in less than 12-minute cycles, depending on the house and how it is. And that's because it will quickly cool the air, and it will shut the thermostat off without properly dehumidifying, right? And dehumidification is everything. All right. The thermostat should be set in the mid 70s. I know when I say that to people, they're like, are you kidding me? But if it's set, if it's set there and um, uh, and the house is properly dehumidified, it'll feel great. Okay, so short cycling will cause a lot of temperature variations in the house when it's not properly dehumidified. So a ton of cooling, we say, is about 12,000 BTUs, and it should be adequate for every 1,000 square feet of well-insulated space. It could be more, depending on the house. A ranch is going to be different than a two-story. A house that's very compartmentalized is going to be different. Central returns compared to returns in every room. I mean, you have to really get a pro to take a look at that. But anyway, so that's one of the reasons that can cause that. The system is not sized properly. And I look at that during the inspection. And we'd look at the tag, and we could talk about that later. We're going to do a video on just tags, different tags like air conditioning, heating, and hot water tanks and things like that. Take a look at the tags and see what they tell us. But in this case, we go by tonnage, right? And so just have to look at the house. If it's more modern construction and has a lot of good insulation, and maybe it's a two-story, it's not going to need as much as an older house that's maybe an older ranch that is not well insulated, older windows. It's going to need maybe a larger system. So that's really not part of the scope of a home inspection. But I will tell you, if I see, 1,000 square foot house that's well insulated, newer windows, in good shape, more modern construction, let's say, and they replace the unit with a 3-ton unit, I'm going to say something. I'm going to say that sure looks oversized, and just like I would if it were undersized. You've got a 4,000, 5,000 square foot house with multiple areas in that, and you got a 1-ton. In that case, you may need, 2-3 ton units. That's outside the scope of the inspection. But I think that if it's to the point where that's going to be causing a problem, especially if I see what I'm about to see. So I want to share my screen with you right now. Let me grab that. See some of the things that we're talking about. But first, before I do that, I want you to look. Just want to show you this. I want to make sure we're clear. Here's just inside here are evaporator coils, and a lot of putty, huh? But anyway, just a typical system, AC, central electric, and here is our condensate discharge, okay? Because I'm not talking about this. And this goes out to whether it goes out to a pump or whether it goes to an area away from people or animals, whatever it is, or it should not come in contact with them, I should say. That's fine. Okay, this is not what I'm talking about. There's a lot of condensation coming out here, and there will be a lot of condensation. I'm talking about this. Let me go over here. Okay, and so look at this. Now, this is in my picture. The air conditioning is sweating like crazy, and I've got other pictures of this house where there's water stains and mold starting to form. That's the other part of the problem. Besides having an oversized unit and not having the house conditioned properly, now we have other issues going on. Okay, this water, where's it going to go? If it's traveling through the walls or, dripping on the drywall, we're going to have an issue with moisture. So my direction to you is if you see sweating on the ducts, not condensation coming out of the condensate discharge, it's a problem. And like I said, one of the reasons it could be that the unit's not sized, but what other reasons could there be? So you asked, so I'll tell you. So I just jotted a few things down. And here you go. Make it a little bit bigger. So duct insulation is most important. We have cold, dehumidified air traveling in a space that is hot and humid through a thin metal duct. The same analogy applies to a cold glass of water sitting on a table on a hot summer day. So they should be properly sealed and they should be insulated, especially if they're running in a hot space, right? Or vice versa if they're running in a cold space for heat. So we think duct insulation is a great idea in those areas for sure. Sealing a crawl space, if the crawl space is not properly insulated, including a proper vapor barrier on the floor, that will increase the chances of condensation on the ducts. Again, moisture and heat in that area. Okay, proper attic ventilation. I know many individuals don't recommend attic ventilation anymore, which I disagree with. However, a very hot attic with cold ducts running through it will cause condensation. Kind of like almost point number one. But we see houses that maybe have a boiler, a baseboard heat in the house, and then they've got the air handling equipment in the attic. For sure, that needs to be insulated. We've got a hot attic up there. That's when we're going to be using the air conditioning, right? So we're going to have that problem too. Poor airflow. A lot of people forget about this, but the clean filter and clean evaporator coils are critical for that system to run properly. So the biggest reason is a clogged or dirty filter, very easily taken care of, but also the evaporator coils need to be clean too. Okay. Keep in mind that if that filter is bad or clogged, the air handler, the blower, can't do its job because it's being restricted. And on the heat cycle, if it's integrated, you could actually damage the heat exchanger because of that. Icing of the evaporator coils. Cause of this are clogged air filter, dirty coils, or undersized or improperly functioning system. Undersized or oversized, right? So if there's icing on the coils themselves, that's going to cause a problem. So are they dirty? Is the system undersized or oversized? What's the issue? Why would there be ice there? And many times it could be that there's a problem with the refrigerant. Again, way beyond our scope as a home inspection, but if we see it, we can call it out and at least send them in the right direction. So block condensate discharge. Chilled condensate water will back up in the condensate tray and the air handler mixing with the warmer air, creating condensation. Absolutely. And that is something we do check on our visual inspection. Is that open and is the condensate draining properly? Okay. So all very important things. I would say, in my time out there, I would say the biggest issue with sweating ducts, the two biggest issues that I've run into is one, not having insulation where they're supposed to be insulated, like in an attic space or a crawl space. And two is the system not sized properly. Absolutely, those are the two biggest ones. And I'd say a third would be a filter and or a clogged evaporator, dirty evaporator coils and possibly a clogged filter, in that order. So I just wanted to show you that. And, I just heard some inspectors say, well, if there's a little bit of condensation on there, it's not that big of a deal. If there's a little dripping, it's as long as it's closer to the evaporator coils. No, no, no. The ducts should not be sweating. Absolutely not. That's a problem. And just not only, like I said before, is it a problem with the with the size of the system and it not functioning properly, but what about running through walls? Are we going to have moisture mold that house? The picture I showed you, there were water stains in a few different locations, so that's going to become a problem. Okay, so let's take a look at our report and see how we want to let our clients know that they've got some sweating ducts. Nothing worse than a sweating duct. All right, let me share my screen with you. And here we go. So pretty simple. We're going to go right to cooling. And again, you can fill all this out, where it's located, all those things. Operation, unable to operate due to 65 degrees. Okay, again, now, as far as the condenser coils, that's all outside stuff. Compressor, the unit appears past serviceable life. All that doesn't have anything to do with it. However, the unit appears improperly sized for this dwelling or unit. And so InspectCheck tells our client, the unit may appear to be functioning properly. However, it may have a diminished serviceable life or not properly conditioned the air due to its size. Again, conditioning the air. This is not a technically exhaustive study. The opinion is based on a visual inspection of the unit and the amount of living space. Recommend further evaluation by a qualified HVAC professional. Look, that would be the place to put right here. Ducts sweating. Okay, ducts were noted sweating, but we can continue down here. System response, I mean, it's going to respond, right? So we're not going to worry about that. But here's where we would hit it again. Air handling, right? So we would come down here and put damaged disconnected ducts. Probably not that one, but I might put over here something to the effect of, see before, if you even need to put anything here for the ducts, because this is really more for what the condition of the ducts is, but we could actually put here ducts or sweating at the time of inspection. Please see previous section. Okay, so very simple, because we're going to put them right back over to here. And I'm sorry, we're going to put them back to here. And we're going to say, there's the problem. Okay, the unit maybe is improperly sized. Unless you know that it's not, then we can go say, well, let's say you know that the filter is bad, right? And the unit's sized properly, everything's good, but the filter is a disaster. Well, there you go. We're going to replace the filter. Ducts were sweating. I would say that might be a reach unless it's really bad and then you take the filter out and then they clear up while you're there. But I really like the system. There's a problem with the response, and it needs to be evaluated. And that's what we're going to do right here. I think that's the easiest way. Well, I hope that you enjoyed this and gave you a little clarity on sweating ducts. We don't want to have sweating ducts, right? So anyway, please subscribe. We'll get these videos out to you and as often as we can. I like sharing the information with everybody. I've been doing this for a little while, so it's a lot of fun. You can also go to homeinspectortrainingonline.com for more information. Till we talk next time, have a great day.